Hello all! Today I wanted to take a look at one of the most well-received games on Steam in terms of its VR collection. A game that I personally feel has an enormous amount of content on the internet, but sadly I feel no one really talks about. Not that I don't get it, of course. So, without further ado, welcome to The Forest. To start, The Forest is an open-world survival game that was developed by Night Games and released back in April of 2018. Now, over 2 years later, the game sits at over 180,000 reviews on Steam while maintaining a score of 9 out of 10, a feat that no doubt earns it the title of one of the best VR games on the platform. Now, I know what you may be thinking there, Jimmy. VR game? But Dave, it's not a VR game, it's just VR compatible, you buffoon. Well, yes, that is correct. The original version of the game didn't come equipped with VR, and as far as I can tell, VR compatibility came sometime in September of 2019. However, I know for myself, the game has never really popped up before that point. So, with all that being said, I decided to grab my headset and jump in to The Forest. So, to start this off, the game does actually have a story, but it is completely optional. I won't get into spoiler territory for those out there who actually give a damn, but essentially, you play as a man named Eric, who is some sort of TV celebrity and survival expert. How fucking convenient. The game starts you off on a plane, traveling to some unstated destination. Everything is swell and calm, and your son Timmy sleeps daintily on your shoulder. However, shit really starts to hit the fan when the damn wing of the plane comes off and you start to hurtle towards your imposing death. But the title where a protagonist dies in the first 30 seconds of the game would be total shit, so you do indeed survive the crash and are gifted with a terrifyingly dark and creepy scene of some scary bald guy stealing your kid while you're immobile and helpless. Because that has never been done before.
I'm not giving you shot!
Anyway, so upon waking up in the crashed remains of my plane, my son gone, and barely a scratch on me, I proceed to casually loot the remains of my fellow passengers' belongings. However, oddly enough, there is in fact a strange lack of corpses nearby. Probably nothing. I take some time to look at the visuals of my surroundings. While the screen you're seeing will never do it justice, the game truly is stunning, and you can really see the amount of effort that went into crafting the world and environment ranging from the beautiful mountains, the sun in the sky, and the local art scene. So the first thing I chose to do in my new tropical paradise was chop the ever-living shit out of some trees and make myself a homestead before it gets dark. Now let me take a minute to tell you that the hit detection in this game for VR is absolutely fantastic. Despite the fact that chopping down trees makes my arms sore after a while of smacking the virtual shake weight, it really feels cool when you manage to chop down a tree and see it collapse to the ground before bursting into perfectly cut logs for you to haul to your camp. Speaking of camps, the Forest has a really good crafting system too, with tons of presets and frames for you to build off of and create your own compound. All of the preset builds are neatly organized in your survival book and are relatively easy to create and assemble, simply listing the materials needed, and you go off and fetch and begin building with. Alternatively, there is an option to create some more custom builds with individual items such as walls, doors, floors, etc. Now, the joy of all this does wear off rather quickly, however, and yet becomes another thing you have to repeatedly do in your efforts to survive. Now, survive what? Well, as it would seem, the island actually is populated with its own indigenous people who have apparently made a habit out of trying to eat the ass out of anybody who dare approach their island paradise with a club made out of skulls, hands, pens, and cobbled together worse than this video. Seriously, though, mutant cannibals. You see, everything in this game is designed to be horrifying. The developers really took their time to consider what would fuck with you the most in this game. Even the surroundings are completely silent. Oftentimes no music, no voices. Simply the sound of the wind, wildlife, and maybe your footsteps. It's not a calming silence, though. Instead, it's combined with this constant feeling that you're being watched from every corner, and every action you take brings you one step closer to turning around and having some ADHD version of Carrie try and use your insides as socks. And while all those feelings are compounded into a virtual reality, it creates a spectacular thriller that honestly gave me a feeling of such impending doom I might just have a good cry before bed tonight. Now, after just 40 minutes of playtime, I realized that I was not prepared for this on my own. The game mechanics are easy enough to figure out, but the atmosphere is so damn unnerving that I can't focus the way that I would want when recording this video. So, I decided to bring in an expert in the form of my buddy John. Now, the first thing I've seen to be a complaint in this game is that when you introduce multiple people, the game's difficulty dramatically goes down with each addition. Building is faster, gathering is faster, and enemies' attacks are easier, which makes sense in terms of a survival situation. More people means you survive better. So, in some ways, it can be a potential dampen to the game experience, though. With all that being said, I truly feel this game has some value at being downright hilarious in multiplayer while still keeping enough suspense that you're afraid to go out at night. Oh, and that's another thing. Night in this game is dark. Obviously, this is done deliberately to add more fear and stress. Oftentimes, you're out and about hunting and gathering, and suddenly it's pitch black, and all you have is a small lighter to light your surroundings, while all the while you are definitely being stalked and will be attacked by the aforementioned people of the Give Me Your Spleen tribe. But even when you make it back to your shack, it's not over, because if the enemy shows up en masse while you're sleeping, guess who's waking up for a midnight game of cry under the bed because daddy's been drinking and mommy burned the roast? Moving on from that frightening imagery, the island our protagonist and John inhabit is home to these cannibalistic people. And as such, they must have villages where they keep their belongings, sleep, and do whatever else they do to become so goddamn limber and agile. As it turns out, one of those things is in fact street art. All jokes aside, this game really has a cool trick where it convinces you that you're tough and capable when faced with these horrifying abominations, one or two at a time, and then rapidly changing things around and having you sprint off like the Fellowship and leaving Gandalf to die at the hands of the Balrog.
Fly, you fools!
I cannot tell you how many times I felt like a real Chad being surrounded by a handful of these Gollum cosplayers and rushing into battle before being forced to retreat because a few good hits and suddenly my health and energy are beaten to a pulp.
I mean, we probably could, but I don't know.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Yeah,
Run!
Just keep going this way.
Oh, and another neat feature of this game is its status menu. Everything is monitored by your watch. It keeps track of things like your hunger, hydration, health, temperature, and disease. Much like a real survival situation, you need to keep good care of your health and watch for potential dangers to your internal system as well as the external surroundings. That's why you only eat the blueberries, not the white and red ones.
You want, there are definitely like some areas that are better to build, some that are worse. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, be careful about those white ones.
I thought it was just the red ones.
No, I said white and red. White
Oh.
and red. You gotta watch out for them both.
Seriously, while you're out foraging for food and materials, you can find a variety of fauna that can be useful for crafting various exploits and keeping your hunger and thirst satiated long enough for you to die of rectal tearing via cannibals instead of dehydration or hunger. Eating the wrong things, however, can cause poison or sickness, which can cause damage or debilitating effects that can be mitigated via salves or painkillers. Aside from this, you need to keep clean. Getting covered in heathen blood is a good way to catch infection, especially when the only clothes you have were taken from a dead stewardess, and now you are a male, late 20-something-year-old queen kicking ass in high heels and a skirt.
You know what's really upsetting to me? The cross-dressing is whatever, right? Like, you clearly needed clothes, right? I get that. Why the heels, though?
Look, man, okay, someone's gotta stomp the cannibals.
Fantastic for content, not great for avoiding bloodborne pathogens. On top of all of this, you have to monitor your temperature. Getting hot or cold can cause potential complications, such as an unfortunate case of death. Things like getting wet at night can easily cause hypothermia, where standing by a fire will dry and alleviate those symptoms. Don't stand too close, however, or else, well.
And climb up the rope.
I landed in the fire, John.
Aside from all of this, hunting is a very serious venture, and you need to carve out time in your busy day for it. The forest provides a variety of animals to murder and devour, ranging from rabbits, birds, lizards, deers, gators, turtles, fish, and more, and I haven't even stumbled on all of them yet. Aside from killing for food, the game offers you a fancy little method for trophy hunting as well, where you can hang onto the heads of your prey to do whatever you want to do with.
Alright,
Now this is easily one of the funniest heads I've ever carried. Look at him.
Oh my god.
Oh, it's funny.
For those who are worried about the environmental implications of murdering all of these small innocent creatures, do know that everything goes to use. Everything from the shell of the tortoise to the skin of the alligator gets used in some way, whether it be protection, gathering resources, or even making a bed for you to sleep in at night. The last thing John and I did in this particular first run on the forest for me was check out some of the caves. Now, the caves in this game are downright fucked, and I have no other way to describe them. Apparently, the vast majority of the caves are all interconnected and it can become easy to get lost in this cave network for hours only to end up emerging on some other end of the island, nowhere near your camp or supplies. On top of this, the caves really take advantage of the aforementioned darkness that the forest employs, and really leave you nervous upon exploration. The game really makes you struggle to decide between exploring in the darkness in search of loot and story, or possibly becoming a real doll to whatever beast lay within, or sitting on the surface and simply surviving in your new environment. All in all, while I didn't cover everything, I do think that this will serve as a good first impression on the forest for those who are interested. While the game does have some minor bugs and can be a bit wonky at times with hit detection and movement controls in VR, you can really tell that the developers took careful thought in environmental design and atmospheric choices while still creating a world you actually want to explore. While the game is available for both traditional keyboard and mouse as well as VR, I'd say in my humble opinion that VR delivers the full intended effect of the dev team. I definitely recommend The Forest to anybody who's looking for a unique and creative experience in virtual reality that will simultaneously have you filling your diaper with everything you have eaten in the last year.
Now, his first area of this cave is not particularly bad. There's a
John, I
jump scare
think-
with a bat.
John, I think Lindsay Lohan sneezed in here.
Ew. Planned Parenthood has really dropped in quality, hasn't it?
Oh, sweet Jesus.